Hello everyone, this is Ria Pahuja from ETCIO and I welcome you all to this webinar, Finding Digital Road to Successful Modernization. In search of the perfect digital setup, enterprises are undertaking significant initiatives to modernize their systems and enhance their digital maturity. This modernization includes multiple elements: upgradation of legacy applications, introduction of microservices, decommissioning and rebuilding applications, refactoring applications, replatforming systems, or migration to the cloud. Enterprises are often befuddled by the volume of information around and are unable to identify the right point to start, the road to follow, or the framework to adopt. With the expertise of Sears and Amazon Web Services, enterprises can find all these answers and successfully execute their digital modernization journey. Our aim with this webinar today is to help CXOs of the businesses to empathetically reach their desired digital ecosystem goal. And for this very topical session, we have with us three eminent speakers from the industry. Please join me in welcoming these speakers. We have with us Mr. Manish Dixit, Enterprise Solutions Architect from AWS, Mr. Raghu, Director Cloud Engineering for Sears, and Mr. Mayank Ahluwalia, Associate Director for AWS Practice at Sears. Hello, everyone. Welcome you all. How are you doing?
Hi, Ria. Thank you so much for welcoming us.
Pleasure is ours. Thank you for joining us. Before we go ahead, I just have one announcement for our attendees. Dear audience, please do drop in your queries, your questions, and your concerns in the Q&A box. We will be addressing all your questions in the end in our live Q&A round. Without any further ado, over to you. Please take this forward.
I'm Mayank Ahluwalia. I take care of the AWS practice for Sears, and I am being joined by a couple of my fellow colleagues, one from AWS and another one from Sears itself. I say colleagues because Sears and AWS work very, very closely together. And that's how, we are often, the number of times we actually speak to each other in a day, we often feel like we are colleagues. Right. So Manish has been our anchor with Sears for a very, very long time. He has been helping us do a lot of, handholding in terms of helping us with a lot of customer areas, a lot of enablement sessions, and helping us with, anything on AWS. So Manish will be speaking to you first. Once I finish, I'll be taking a very quick tour with you for about 5 minutes on what Sears does. And then we'll be joined with Raghu. Raghu will be taking care of, he basically takes care of the cloud engineering practice. He's a director with us, so he'll be taking care, he'll be taking on from Manish from there on. So at Sears, Sears is now about 20 years old in the industry. We are present in around 10 countries, and we are also, helping customers since the last, around a couple of decades on cloud since day one. So it's truly been a born in the cloud engagement for Sears. We have always been, cloud has always been the number one priority. And we started our partnership with AWS about a few years back, around 5 to 6 years back. We, in fact, became one of the fastest advanced consulting partners on AWS. We are helping customers on AWS on a number of areas. One of the very few being, modernization being one of the main themes in this topic as well. So we are DevOps competency partner with AWS. We also have a few other competencies, which are in Microsoft workloads, in data analytics as a competency, and then well-architected review. We are also one of the top migration partners. We help customers migrate to AWS, and be it small POCs like a couple of servers, or being even going up to 1,000 servers as well, helping you migrate and then modernize. For Sears, modernize has always been the number one priority when it comes to any kind of cloud engagement. We have always wanted to put my modernize in front of migrate. So all our conversations with our customers start with the topic of how do you want to modernize? How do you want to be agile? How productive do you want to be? Are you looking at microservices as a solution for you? Are you looking at implementing DevOps, implementing pipeline, implementing automation as a solution for you? So with that, I would like to introduce to you a few areas of where we work in, right? Infra and DevOps, which is basically migrate and modernize, are our initial two main themes that CS works in. Right, we have two separate practices, and the entire focus for us is to help customers do better, be more agile, be more productive, have quicker implementation, and so on and so forth. So migrating from anywhere to AWS, be it on-prem systems, co-located environments, be it data centers, be it any other cloud service providers, and then go on to modernize them, go on to ensure that they are successful in their journey. That's what we aim for. We also, by the way, have a software engineering team, which is an application development team, which deals in all kinds of front-end and back-end technologies. Apart from that, we are very, very proud to have a couple of other practices, which is data and ML. The data practice includes basically helping customers modernize their data warehouse on AWS. It also helps us. It also, includes basically bringing a lot of data sources together and putting them on AWS, right? And then we also have a ML practice, which is focusing on areas like recommendations, personalize, forecasting for you. It could be custom built models on SageMaker. There could be, tools which AWS offers, like personalize, forecast, and all of that. So depending on the use cases, that's how we basically we want to understand our modus operandi in CS is to first understand the problem statements, the goals, the business goals that you as a customer want to achieve, and then we sort of decide that these are the which are the areas that we want to look forward in. So the engagement model is more like discover first, do workshops, do discovery sessions with you, and then we kind of decide on, okay, this is the roadmap, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, and that's how we move forward. This is a very, very short list of some of our customers that we have. We have customers which are some of the very big enterprises, also some of the very biggest of digital native and customers who have been very good, very big startups now who are unicorns, right? So you can take a very, very quick look here. Overall, we are serving more than 1,200 customers just on our AWS panel, right? And we have around the overall company size is now around 1,500 plus people. So CS is growing very rapidly along with AWS, and because of partnerships like AWS that we continue to grow. And with that, I would want Anish to take it forward.
Hey, Mayank, thanks. Thanks for setting the stage, Mayank. Mayank has already started with our introduction. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Manish Dikshit, solution architect in AWS. So if you try to understand AWS, we have various organization or various teams in AWS. So I come from partner organization in AWS. As Mayank rightly said, we are colleagues when it comes to CS partnership, because that is how we work so closely. And today my intention is to share with you some best practices, some why part of modernization, and some trends which is happening across the industry. With this, I think let's start with a quick poll question. So I would like to get your view on the poll question. Priya, if you can flash, yeah.
Sure. Dear attendees, we just want to gather your inputs on how we can help you the best. So here is a poll question. Please do cast in your vote here. And the question says, what is the overall objective of the modernization initiative in your organization? And you can choose from the options given: reduce TCO, increase productivity, increase agility, better ROI, or all of them. Manish, while we wait for attendees to cast in their vote, you must be in conversation with a lot of organizations out there. How do you think the market looks like? What is the major objective the market or the organizations have today?
Yeah, so that's what the interesting thing is, Ria, and that's what I'm going to cover in due course of time, where if you see it varies from roles to role. Maybe CIO is looking something else versus the security leader is looking something else, right? All if we put together everything, it's all digital era, which is very competitive in nature, right? Innovation plays important role. So various aspects. So let's see what responses we get, and then we can quickly talk about that.
What I have seen in these webinars, whenever we do some questions to ask the objective and there's an option in the end, all of the above, most of the people go for that. And I think this poll may be going towards the same thing. Here are the poll results, Manish, and the results say 2% choose TCO, 14 increased productivity, 0 have went with increased agility, but 80% have said all of the above.
Yeah, so ye dil mange more, right? So that's how it is. Everything people would want, because that's how the world is, and that's how the beauty of digital era is. You look for solution and you get solution for every problem, and with various business drivers. Okay, great. Thanks, Riya. So moving on to the key question, right? Why modernize? What is something across the industry our customer ask? Why we need to modernize? Why can't we continue the way we have been doing business, right? What is changing? That's the main question, right? Because end of the day, whatever we do, we try and support business, right? So what is changing across industry? It's very interesting to know, right? If you see, when I say new normal, what is new normal? So new normal is very simple. We are living in a digital era. That's a fact. When we started this couple of years back, almost a decade back, people were not accepting the fact, right? People were still wanted to live in their traditional way of doing business. But digital era has changed the business model completely. So if you see day by day, you will see companies are increasingly globally. And the products are also becoming global, right? And if I just refer, especially the reports from Gartner and various agencies, what they say is 40% of the CEOs are, being challenged by the board of directors. Hey, why don't you make progress in digital business, right? When I look at the CIOs, 79% of CIOs are really trying to understand, how do we make more impact through the digital business, right? I mean, making more IT based decisions, right? And of course, overall, 67% of leaders are trying to do more innovation, try to be competitive in the market, right? But when we do all this, these numbers look good, right? But the thing is, how do we understand this, right? In raw language, how do we understand? How do we interpret this as to what is to be done to meet this, right? What is to be done to achieve this? So I have an interesting innovation flywheel, on the screen. If you see, it's very interesting flywheel, right? Where it starts with the end customer, right? How do you collect the feedback from the customer? So faster you collect and analyze the feedback, the quicker you can react on the customer need, right? And more you save the cost, then more you come up with the new ideas on experiment, and how quickly you implement the idea, right? I remember a couple of years back, and I'm talking about 5-6 years back, I was attending a summit where the debate was on fast, faster, and fastest. There was nothing called slow. There was nothing called, okay. It was all started with fast, right? So how do you, as fast as possible, as rapidly as possible, introduce new feature to the business, right? And with new experiment. That's how, you will be in the game, right? Now, when you want to do this, and when I interpret this into implication for IT, what does it mean to IT? So of course, the traditional approach is completely going away. People are talking about modular architectures. People are talking about smaller units, lower, because that way you reduce the risk. You can have fast time to market. You can have quick releases, right? And of course, data-driven decision, right? You try and collect more data from the customer so that, you take decisions which are completely, data driven, right? So you need some kind of data systems, and above and all, automation is like default, right? If I remember traditional days, especially in banking world or any large enterprises, if you want to move your code from dev environment to test environment or production environment, it would take weeks to get the test environment. It would take months to get the production environment. right? But that is not the case today. So how do we use this power, right, which is given to us, and help in digital business? That's what the whole purpose is, right? And of course, it goes without saying that you need to invest in talent as well. You need to have right skills available who can help you transform into the digital business, right? Um, if I look at the drivers, and it's really interesting when I posted the whole question. The question, of course, everybody would want everything, right? But if I look at this more from various roles perspective, so if I look at the first quadrant, and where CSOs are given, right? When I say security leads, of course they know that there are other leaders who can take care of other things. So their focus definitely, when they would look for modernize application, their focus would be more security, more simplicity in security. How you implement a policy, right, across all the application. Let's say you have developers working in various systems. How do you uniformly implement the security, right? How easily you introduce new changes in the security. Then CIOs, of course, as we all know, CIOs would more look for the productivity, introducing new features in the system for better customer experience, mobility without, it's a default right now. And then if it is an infra person, of course, his job is to reduce the cost. His job is to provide environments seamlessly, right? And data is something which we can't avoid, right? I mean, I know if you see a few years back, people used to talk in application. Hey, my A application is talking to B application is talking to C application. But if you see the conversation is all about data. Hey, my data is flowing from A point to B point. People don't talk now in application. They talk in data. So do we have something for data leads, right? When we talk about modernized application, that's what would make difference, right? With this, if I move to the basic pillars of modernization, which will make this more impactful or successful. I always see what happens, like people either get into more technical initiatives, then they miss out the other aspect, or they get into the more cultural aspect and they miss out the other aspect. So how do you balance it, right? So there are three key pillars for any modernization initiative. Of course, it starts from technology or right architectures, be it monolith to microservices, be it containerization, serverless, and all. But if you don't have right culture processes in place, no matter what you introduce, no matter you have best of best CI/CD tool, you can't transform your business. Because end of the day, if you have certain release cycle which you don't change, let's say today you're delivering every 3 months, if your business is not thinking of getting the feedback from customers and implementing, let's say this in quick turnaround time, it is not going to help. So people, process, culture, equally important. And when we say this, of course, it governance automatically comes into picture. And the very first thing, whatever you do, anything and everything starts from automation. So if you see the traditional era, right, people used to think that infrastructure is not something you can automate, right? And that's what the today's world is. Anything and everything can be automated, and that's how it should be. So when I sum it from the pillars of modernization, it is technology and architecture. It definitely have to have right processes, culture, and global scale, right, with automation. With this, if I quickly try and move to the next thing, which is more across, if you see the industry, if I just take, let's say, 1,000 application portfolio, and if I just try and break it into various patterns, I'm sure you must have heard about the 7R strategy when you do the migration or modernization. If I take this portfolio of 1,000 application, if I try and divide this, you will see the variety, right? You will see that 30 to 40% applications are either rehost or rehost with some kind of upgrade. You will find some VM ware-based kind of applications where 5 to 10% can be relocated. You will also see certain applications where you can do the replatforming. Now, replatforming could be, related to simple containerization to moving from one DB to another DB, right? And then remaining 20-30% of it is refactor, repurchase, and all. Now, traditional approach has been, when we, first of all, few years back, it was always like, why cloud, right? That question is already answered, I believe, because it is all, why not cloud, right? So everybody is literally rushing to move to the cloud. Now the question to be answered is, how quickly, we get the ROI, how quickly we get various benefits, various business drivers to be addressed, which we have just discussed or saw in the previous slides, right? So if you see the traditional approach, 60% of the workload straight away, you can move, and then you free up your time and budget for other modernization piece. But the $1 million question is, do we always need to do migration first, then only do the modernization? And can we do migration and modernization parallel? Because the myth is, unless you migrate, you can't modernize. But that's a myth, right? You will have certain applications where you don't need to directly rehost. You can very well apply replatform or refactor, right? Or you can maybe rebuild it, right? Now, if I just try and understand the modernization pathways with this, and if I divide this maybe more in terms of application, database, and let's say Windows-based workloads, just as an example, as I was telling you, the typical approach is, you follow the migration route, you first rehost it on the cloud, and then from there, once they are in the cloud, then you define a path, and then you choose whether you want to go for the cloud native-based architecture, you want to go for the managed cloud services, or if it is database, then you want to move to the managed databases, stuff like this, right? But there is another approach where you can follow, and that is how the application assessment or portfolio assessment come into play, where we really get into that level detail. Does it make sense to do the rehost and then refactor, or can we directly go for the refactor, right? And then we directly take that approach where we are directly refactoring and replatforming, where certain applications are going through the normal route, you migrate and modernize, but certain set of applications right from the day one, you put them into the modernization path, right? And then you follow, any of the approach. Of course, it's not the superset, it is subset of modernization techniques. I've just taken some examples. There is a list, and there is a huge list, and it will keep on adding, I'm sure, right? With this, if I just quickly summarize, AWS Vast Experience, it's difficult for me to summarize in one slide, right, or 5 minutes discussion, right? But just to give you some glimpse of it, there are a couple of examples where, let's say, if I take example of global customers like FICO, where we could literally reduce the overall compute cost by 95%, or Coca-Cola, where we could reduce the processing time from 1.5 days to literally 10 seconds, right? With the power of cloud, right? With the power of AWS platform, and of course, the consulting partners like Sears, right? Then FINRA is another example where we could, with our AWS service, we could deliver this in 3 months' time, right? Or when it comes to the DevOps aspect of it, Washington Post, right, where we could increase the overall we can decrease the turnaround for the deployment. Now 50+ deployment per hour is great thing to achieve, right, when it comes to Washington Post. With this, I'll quickly move to the next segment of the poll questions, and I would like to hand it over to Raghu, who would, I'm sure, take you through the Sears capability and stuff, and also he would try and cover certain case studies very, very specific to modernization.
Thanks, Manish. Priya, can you post the poll?
Here is the poll question for you, audience, once again, just to understand how we can help you better. And the question says, I'm looking for support from AWS Sears on cloud and modernization assessment. optimal architecture and TCO on cloud, migrate and modernize workload implementations, or once again, all of the above. All right, here we have the poll results. I hope you're able to see that, and 15% say cloud and modernization assessment, 9% say optimal architecture and TCO on cloud, 15% say migrate and modernize workload implementation, and 61% say all of the above. I hope this helps you, Raghu.
Thanks, Riya. I think that helps. See, the majority of the attendees here, even from the customers, they see the need helping partner like us and AWS in their cloud transformation journey. This will actually help them to establish the best practices rather than iteratively learning over a longer period of time. It will basically shorten their journey. And today we are going to cover some of the best practices and patterns to modernize applications to cloud. With that, let me start my my presentation. So for any modernization journey, like Manish covered, right? So there are certain business problems, business drivers that are actually driving every organization a need for modernization. So the technology is changing fast, customer preferences are changing fast, economic conditions are changing fast, and globalization impact. I mean, the app developed today, it is available across the globe in span of days. So we need to enable our applications and transform them to a global scale. Given the current business scenario, there is a need for every organization to look at technology, not just like a supporting their business functions, to add both business value and future enhancing customer experience. For example, if you see artificial intelligence, it is impacting our day-to-day life in a big way. So there are certain business drivers, such as technology transformation. There is a quicker way to introduce the new products, innovating the existing technology. There are some organizations have a lot of breadth of business capabilities. Now they wanted to convert into SaaS product and offer it as a service in different cloud platforms as their own platform. And obviously, since you are in cloud, always reducing the cost is one of the business drivers. So to transform these business drivers into a technical solution, a partner like Sears, they can help in this journey. There are certain standards. Since I come from a technology background, there are some standard modernization patterns that are followed. This is only subset. There are so many ways we can achieve this one. Today, we are going to cover how we can translate some of these business challenges into technical architecture problems, and how we can address with respect to certain application frameworks and certain databases. So let us say we have an application or a business problem. Are we going to build the complete application on a one go? So the modernization lifecycle basically will help us to establish how we are going to define, let's say, a minimum viable product or a simple service to all the way to operate. Because once we are thinking about a cloud, it is important for us not to do a huge investment. Always evolve fast, get the feedback fast, like Manish highlighted, right? There is always feedback loop we need to improve on a day-to-day basis. That will help us to offer our business solutions better to the customer. Let's say we want to transform our existing application to microservices. Are we going to convert there are hundreds of services out there. Are we going to convert all the services overnight to microservices and modernize it? Is it possible? So that is something there are certain patterns which I'm going to explain, but the modernization lifecycle always starts with how we approach a small minimum viable solution or service and modernize it and operate it and take the feedback, offer it to the customer. It could be an internal technology solution. I mean, let's say I want to offer my authentication as a service, okay? Authorization and authentication as a service. So to do this one, I'll develop a simple microservice instead of let's say user ID and password. I want to introduce key-based authentication, something like that. So we will build a simple framework that will accelerate any customer journey from a smaller minimum product to a complete, fully matured product that involves these three phases refined over a period of time in an iterative fashion. So that way, there is a optimized infrastructure, optimized investments, and cultural maturity of the organization in the process of it, because that is also very important for us. Like Manish highlighted, right? There is a people maturity also should be aligned. So through this process, we are going to evolve the process, and at the same time, we are going to accelerate our transformation journey. Because for any transformation journey, the biggest hurdle, I would say, is starting the journey. Once you start any transformation in cloud, I have seen workloads going quarter on quarter, 100%, 200%, more than that. So as a consulting partner, CS will help you to define these complete phases and establish the best practices frameworks. So how do we do it? So there is a assessment framework that covers the existing organization best practices. We'll take some of the inputs from different stakeholders like our business owners, security team, infrastructure team, operations team. So we will gather all these inputs from different stakeholders. This could be a process of few workshops. There are certain standard questionnaire we have, which we frequently conduct with customers, or it could be a whiteboarding session. We will gather all this information. Typically, it will span across maybe 2 days to, let's say, 1 week time, and it will come up for us to establish this framework that will help define the transformation journey and come up with that strategy and what is the minimum viable product or service that we are going to start in this journey. And also this will help us to define a well-established KPIs with respect to the technology benefit, business benefit, and also the our operational benefit, and obviously the cost and investment. How quickly I can reach my ROI. Once we have assessment framework well defined, and that covers my architecture, my operational procedures, my security and governance, how the release life cycle, right? How quickly I do the deployments, how do I do the deployments? Because AWS itself offers vast number of services to that can meet any level of organization. Because AWS, we have helped the customers which are in financial sector, governments, there are regulated industries, healthcare industries. So specific to your problem, we'll establish that framework, how we can start this modernization journey and the framework. And once we have this framework in place, it will work like a factory model where we will keep iteratively doing this for each of the workload. So once we have, let's say, this framework is defined, the next biggest challenge is how do I modernize some of the applications, am I going to go ahead and host them as is? Of course, cloud does provide it, but given AWS offering, breadth of offering, right, it does help in converting some of these monolithic applications. So monolithic application is nothing but we have huge uh, business application that has all the functions. I mean, uh, both different business verticals, and also there is a strongly coupling between uh, different, I mean, my code base and databases, and everything is bundled together. So that's what a typical monolithic application. So if I have to modernize a monolithic application, I mean, AWS is one of the best platform, being one of the top cloud provider, right? They do offer many ways to achieve this. So as a consulting partner, which pattern that meets your requirement to iteratively do this one? The advantage of doing specific patterns is we can follow this pattern over many services. So as an organization, our maturity and the life cycle and the speed with which we achieve this loop, right, that will accelerate. So for example, we can host existing application to serverless. Basically, I mean, we can take some of this code and host it in um, certain services which will offer us serverless architecture. And this triangle monolithic is, let's say you have business logic that is evolved over years. It is very hard for us to break it down. Instead of breaking down such a big application, we can take a small portion of it, which is more independent or loosely coupled, and keep iterating so that the big monolithic application, I mean, that is the reason I represented with a big rock, which can be broken into smaller pieces. So the next one is redeveloping with microservices. Once we think that an application reached its life cycle, I mean, technologically it is not matured enough with the latest technology. Then, for example, a lot of Java applications now written in Node.js. So even we can, I mean, identifying which life cycle current application and mapping it to the right technology framework and defining this, that's where we help you, I mean, to accelerate this complete journey. So there are certain architectural frameworks like microservices, event-driven, domain-driven. All these things can be achieved in AWS because there are so many services. For example, if I want to orchestrate a workflow, I mean, we can achieve even that with serverless architecture in AWS. Domain-driven architecture is, let's say I have well-defined domains within my business, like sales, marketing, HR, finance. So when I try to transform my modernization of applications, even we can follow domain-driven architectures, select few business applications, modernize, iterate, and then evolve that process and convert the monolithic into different microservices. This is one case of application modernization. There are so many such frameworks that are there. There are so many legacy applications that Sears as an organization help the customers to modernize them. But I think given the time, I will move on to the next one, which is database modernization. I think there are several databases, any application which is evolved over years, right? They have acquired because of the leadership or because of their previous data center contracts or whatever it may be. But nowadays, I mean, if you see the Oracle or SQL Server licensing cost, it is almost equal to your compute cost. So customers are really looking for databases. I mean, because the data is one of the key area where given the rapid changes and data growth, I mean, now every website is tracking user actions. So if you have to accumulate such a data, right, it does not give you any financial benefit, but you need the data to build your analytics platform and future ways how you can acquire new customers. So this kind of data growth and proliferation, you can only, I mean, if you keep this growth in a commercial databases, right? We keep on increasing our TCO cost. I mean, our capex will continue to increase with the data growth. So transformation to open source databases, there is a benefit of both capex and opex. Basically, I mean, as you aware, AWS does offer serverless databases where the databases there are services fully managed by AWS where the operational cost, I mean, it drastically reduces because AWS will take care of the infrastructure availability and all, and it comes with SLAs. So for modernizing databases, AWS has very matured service, which is database migration service. And along with, they also have few automation tools, which are just, you need to spin up the tool, connect the source and destination. Then the tool will do a lot of this transformation. I mean, there is a minimal intervention it is required. So this is the overall database modernization. I think with this, I wanted to touch base on few case studies. So let me talk through some of the implementations where we did help the transformation of customers. So this is a financial customer based out of Singapore. As you aware, right, financial services customers are always suspicious. I mean, suspicious in sense they're always concerned. So this customer approached us. They wanted to establish their workload in cloud, but they're looking for a partner who can establish proper security controls. And also they are looking to move away from traditional application to microservices hosted in AWS. And also they want to move their existing databases also to serverless databases. So when they approached it, we had few workshops and came up with how they can do the strategy and how their governance and security will look like, and different layers based on the AWS best practices and well-architected framework, and also based on our few best practices that we learned over a period of time. And once we defined the architecture and their security team agreed upon all the controls, and we migrated the workload. I mean, the complete thing is done within 2 months. I mean, migrating their complete workload and moving to microservices, and then even moving their databases to managed databases. So now customer, I mean, they were happy with this migration because this complete transformation is done so fast, and majority of the workload now, if you see, it is all managed through, I mean, basically we even automated their deployment. So their deployments are automated. So their infrastructure is fully into managed services. So from a traditional data center application to, if you look at the end state, right, they have a fully, I mean, a modernized new application that has self-healing capabilities, auto scaling, state managed, and most important thing is codified their infrastructure, their governance, their security. So it is a very, very happy transformation for a customer. With this, I'll move to the next case study. So Tata Sky, I think we all familiar. Tata Sky is a media company, right? So they have a very large data warehouse that is in IBM Netisa. So this customer, Tata Sky wanted to transform their data warehouse from Netisa to Redshift. Redshift, as you know, it is one of the highly used AWS service. I think it is topmost service for many years, many years. Here, since we have capabilities not only in DevOps and modernization, we also have very large practice in the data platform as well. So we help them to modernize. So basically, Redshift stream is there is other service where we can migrate the existing data warehouse. Basically, what it does is basically AWS provides few agents which can extract data from source data warehouse, and it can take this in a files to S3, and this can be loaded into Redshift as a database. So this complete framework, we help the customer to set it up, and setting up from on-premise, all the both from on-premise and extracting the data and transferring this to S3 and loading it to Redshift. I'm oversimplifying it. The complete journey from Netisa to Redshift, even though I'm giving it a very easier way so that every audience can understand here. This complete transformation, which is a 16 terabyte data warehouse, this took us maybe around 60 days to do complete transformation. So you can imagine, right, how quickly a customer can even move a very large data warehouse to cloud. So that's how Sears as an organization helping customers. These are the few case studies. Ideally, we prefer to have these kind of discussions. In a larger time frame, because given the limited time, right? Typically, we do at least few hours of workshop to the customers to explain our offerings and also understanding the problem statement and coming up with the proper solution. So I think with this, I covered most of the things. I think let me give some time to the question and answers.
First of all, thank you so much, Raghu, Manish, and Mayank, for that very insightful presentation and the content. I'm sure it must be helpful for all the attendees who have joined us. Before we go into Q&A, dear attendees, we have an announcement for you. Sears and AWS would love to offer you a free workshop that you customized to your areas of interest. Be it databases that are troubling you, or the fact that you want to go serverless. You just have to register on the link we have broadcasted you on the chat on the Zoom platform, and the team will get in touch with you. Let's get to the Q&A now. And for the very first question we have here, I'm going to keep the questions open to all three of you. Please do see who wants to join in first and who wants to add a little more of content to that. And the first question is, what are Sears' USP or skill sets that make them stand out from their competitors?
Yeah, so Sears, right? We are a cloud-bound startup, few years back, and we have established practices around all the cloud journey. Whether it is modernization, data, AI, ML, DevOps, security, we all evolve these practices specifically catering cloud. Mm-hmm. So we are a cloud-born company, and that is what our unique offering. And on top of it, even we have our own SaaS product. So we have that product thinking ingrained into our organization. And of course, our engineering strength and my team, I should credit them.
Sure. Thank you for that. Let's take another question from attendees. And the next question says, is cloud a secure platform for financial institutions, considering these are extremely data sensitive businesses?
So I think let's take the global leaders, right? Financial organizations. See, Citibank and any larger organizations, any bank, right? They're all in cloud, and now they are adopting cloud at a rapid pace. So not only Citibank, even the governments, right? Singapore government, US government, there are organizations which are very sensitive within the government organizations itself. They are already in cloud for the past maybe at least 6-7 years. So they are a matured organization in cloud itself. So for financial organizations, there are certain compliance services offered by AWS, and they, as a partner like us, right, we do help you to map equivalent or better security policies than what you have in on-premise. So Manish, do you want to add?
Yeah. So just to add to Raghu's point, I don't know if you're aware, we can share. There are a lot of public information also available, where even in India, right, banks already have started moving. There are banks. Of course, I can't take names now, but there are banks which are already moved to AWS platform, and it started even 2 years back. So that's how it is.
Get that. Moving on to the another question, and the attendee asked, usually the monthly bills in the cloud have been on the higher side. So does Sears help us optimizing our cloud spend?
Yes. So there are certain programs offered by AWS, like we can review the existing workload. I think there is a specific, you can sign up or reach out to Mayank. He should be able to take it forward. This is, I think, one good area where we can start our early conversations. So Mayank, do you want to add anything on top of it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And attendees, I think I would like to just add one thing there, that our actual entire way that we work with customers is that we want to sort of first understand the existing the entire environment. So do deep dive sessions with you, we'll do discovery sessions with you, where we want to understand what are the current pain points, why are the costs high if they're high, how can we optimize costs, and not just cost, right? If you have heard of the well-architected framework, overall as a part of the AWS frameworks and the AWS programs, via that program, there are about 6 pillars, which include security, assessment, as well as operations, as well as resiliency, and a few more that we want to first try, whatever be your requirement. It might be to migrate, right? It might be to modernize, but we start from actually doing some optimization and some deep dive and discovery first. And that actually is one of our USPs as well, because we want to first understand what we want to build with you and what is the thing that you want help on.
And in addition to this, even platform provides a lot of services which upfront recommend you the optimized way of using platform, right? There are certain services available, something called Cost Explorer, various services available which will upfront tell you how do you optimize this, what is something which is underutilized, and you can reduce the cost there.
Get that. Thank you so much for that. Seeing the clock ticking by, we're taking one last question from the attendees. And the question says, can we start with some small steps in our modernization journey? And if yes, what could these small steps be?
So the smallest step is having that workshop with AWS team or partner like us, and we can define you the problem statement that we can explore. That way, it will establish us the basic framework that we can carry forward.
Yeah, because often, customer, when they want to start the journey, what they think that, like traditional approach, right? You have to move everything in one go, or you have to modernize everything in one go, which is not the case, right? You can very well experiment with certain workloads. Be it modernization, be it migration, and when you see a certain value, right, then you start, with other workloads as well.
Get that. Great. Thank you so much for being with us and joining us in the session today, Raghu, Mayank, Manish. It was such a pleasure to have you here. Dear attendees, in interest of time, we're losing out on a few questions for you. Why don't you do one thing? Reach out to us through any of our online or digital communication channels, and we will be there, always happy to help, always ready to answer each and every question of yours. Until then, please do register for your free workshop. I'm sure it must be helpful for you. Until next time, please take care, stay safe, and stay tuned. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ria. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, dear. Thanks, everyone.